Countdown to kickoff continues. The Jaguars and the New York Jets coming up, getting late in the season. Both teams at 3-10. Chris Myers has the call on Fox Sports. And it's great to see you again. Here we are. It's a tough time of year because both teams are out of the mix. 4 games to go. Trying to find some kind of motivation down the stretch here has got to be tough for both of these teams.
Yeah, well, I have analysts who played the game, and you still have a job to do, right? I mean, whether you're a coach or a player, you're still getting paid, and you have fans watching. You have a TV audience. You have a responsibility, just like we do, to call it, and you can have a competitive, exciting game. And this one, I think, will be. I don't want to say they're equally disappointing teams for what I know we all expected coming into the year. And I saw some fight from both of them last week, and just doing it a little early, scouting. Obviously, the Jets let one slip away against the rival Dolphins, who they can't seem to beat down in Miami. And they do have Aaron Rodgers, who was moving a little bit better than I think he had earlier in the year. And for the Jags, the defensive effort was outstanding to be able to pull that off on the road against a team in the division and against a team, again, they're trying to find their way. But I do think Mac's got to play better, right? Mac Jones got to, thrust into that position. He's had some time in different places. He gets the win, but didn't do enough, I think, really from his side of things. So thankfully, the defense was able to pull them out, the big run by Bigsby. So what will we get this week? Well, if the Jags defense, they have to be on their game against a guy like Rodgers, who always gets people to jump off sides. He does have his array of receivers when you think of Wilson and Devontae Adams, and Lazard is one of his favorites who's back. So that makes him always difficult. And again, as I said, he's moving around a little bit better, and all it takes is one big play from him in the offense. And if your offense, meaning the Jags, can't put up points, then you're in trouble. So that, to me, is a key this week. I think the defense will be fine, improving, and at home, that's a plus. The offense has to, have some drives, but get touchdowns at the end of them, not field goals.
Chris, there's a lot of big picture talk around the Jaguars these days. It's year 3 for head coach Doug Peterson. It's year 4 for Trevor Lawrence. He had a lost season in his rookie year in 21. He was injured a lot last year, and obviously he's done for the year now. Moving ahead, there's all these question marks about how this will look in the coming years. But one constant will be Trevor Lawrence at some point. At some point, the injury bug has to be a concern when you've already paid a guy $250 million in a contract. I know you're not a doctor. Maybe you are. We haven't really talked that much. But how concerning is that when your franchise guy just continues to get injured year after year?
Yeah, and you can ask the Dolphins about that as well, right? That just down there, and then you look at guys like Baker Mayfield that are running and jumping and falling and playing hurt. So sometimes it's just unfortunate, and I don't think it's a lack of having covered some of the Jag games in the past and been around Trevor Wilson, his commitment and what he does to prepare physically. I have, and this is what coaches have told me in the past, or those that have played the game, that the taller, more angular quarterbacks, the frame, the taller you get, not you have to be a certain size, obviously, to be able to throw over people. But they do seem more susceptible to some injuries, whether it's the bigger windup or when they slide or a bigger target. I'm not sure about that, and no, I'm not a doctor, but it is a concern, especially when the organization, the franchise, has committed so much to Trevor Lawrence. But you talk to him, you like the guy, he prepares, you believe in him, his teammates do, and again, early, I know he wasn't playing well even before the injury, or the offense wasn't, in fairness to him, but you lose Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk, and they're going, you're starting receivers. So some other teams can adapt a little bit easier. The Jags didn't, and I really, in the bigger picture of things, I expected, having been around Doug Peterson, covered some of those successful years with the Eagles, I expected big things here, and I'm not sure why it hasn't worked. Obviously, the health of the quarterback is one thing. But I can't seem to figure that out. And that's up to ownership and the front office. And if there's needs to be changes there when they review things, and they know better than I, they've been watching on a daily basis, then I think that's what, around the league, I think that's what's anticipated. And I hate to speak like that for Coach Peterson or Trent Baalke, who have their current jobs, but ultimately that's what's out there. And I don't know what ownership is thinking, but ultimately we'll find out. But a strong finish and a team fighting hard, like we saw in Tennessee last week in this game, I think will go a long way.
Chris Myers, Fox Sports, with us. Just reflecting back to the Philadelphia time with Doug Peterson. Why did it go so bad so fast in Philly?
Yeah, I wasn't as closely involved when there were quarterback issues with, you win a Super Bowl with a backup, and then your star guy who was having a great season, right? And Carson Wentz gets hurt, and then you try to work him back in, and you see that Carson Wentz, it didn't pan out for him either. And I think they were trying to force something there, and maybe he disagreed with the front office. At least that's some of the fallout that I remember back then. But I do think, and some players had some issues with Doug. Sometimes those things happen with coaches, but when I was around and watching his interaction with his assistant coaches and his teams, and when I even saw him in the few games that I've done when he's been in Jacksonville, I haven't seen any kind of disconnect. I see the same kind of guy who played the game, who really was, and this is why I thought it would work much better than it has in Jacksonville, connected to his quarterback. I thought that was a real, since he played the position, he backed up some good ones. He's had some success in that area, and in the play design, play calling, which is another sensitive topic there that, and we've asked him about in the past, not to knock the OC, but that's something, if things are on the line, I think, Doug, you'd want him to make those calls, and maybe he would, but he's been loyal to his staff, sometimes to a fault, I think, in that regard, but didn't notice anything that I could see that was a problem there. I think coaches at a certain point after success, whether it was John Gruden down in Tampa or what he did in Philadelphia, the ownership says, hey, it's just not working with this group. We need to make a change.
Chris Myers, Fox Sports, with us on the other side. Where did things go so wrong for the New York Jets? I guess you could ask that every year. I mean, they haven't been to the playoffs in like 14 years. But this was the year. I mean, they had Rodgers coming back healthy. They had all these weapons, and it's just been a meltdown for Gang Green.
Yeah, you can blame players to a certain point, but there are some, and I'm not going to name them here from what I've observed, but you see already what ownership has done there and I thought they fired Robert Saleh too early. I don't know if ultimately he was the right coach or not, but a defensive minded coach, their defense hasn't gotten any better since he's been gone, and again, Aaron Rodgers and him, is he running the offense? Who's really calling the plays? Yes, you want to use his experience, but that has been a mess. And a healthier Aaron Rodgers, we're seeing a little more of it now, and it still isn't clicking. And I think you hit on it. It's an organizational thing, and that's why already a front office move along with a coach, which I think did need to be done because of some of the moves that they made and the direction. But it looked like coming into the year that they had the right kinds of players to at least contend, to at least have a better record than this. I mean, this is a major fall off. And now the questions we're hearing around the league, and Aaron Rodgers himself, he'll be coy about it, but he knows what he wants to do, and whether there's a new coach, new general manager that still want Aaron Rodgers around. I mean, they are somewhat committed to him, or is it time to move on from him? I think Rodgers will play again next year. Is just my opinion, because I don't think he's done yet at his terms, whatever that may be, and I'm sure we'll hear about those over time. But yeah, it's been a bad thing for the Jets for a long time. I mean, this string of missing the playoffs, but this one, and I'm tired of seeing them in prime time because they really have been a mess. I mean, even their game last week, they had it in the bag. It's simple things, not going out of bounds late when a catch is made to run the clock down so you can kick the field goal, so the Dolphins don't have a chance to get the ball and tie the game and then march right down the field in overtime and win, especially when your defense couldn't stop anybody through the course of the game. I thought Rodgers, and the numbers showed, he played a very good game without their star running back. But I don't see it getting any better real soon and that's the thing that would concern me if I was a Jet fan here. What kind of hope is there really based on what you've seen this year and what you've seen over the last decade or so?
We'll have to watch a Pat McAfee show, I guess, to get the Aaron Rodgers side of things. It's usually how that goes each week. You've got a new book out, That Deserves a Wow. Great title. Why now for the book for you, Chris?
Well, was asked a while ago. They said, you had a decade at ESPN, 20 plus years at Fox, a lot of different things. You've worked in a lot of different areas of broadcasting and radio routes locally and TV and into the networks. But some of the events you've covered have been outstanding. Super Bowl, World's in some special, the Brady comeback in the Super Bowl against Atlanta, Mahomes' first Super Bowl with Andy Reid with the Chiefs when they defeated the 49ers to be the network reporter. But then there were other moments that kind of went beyond the wow moments of being at the A's Giants World Series. Earthquake happens. Being at the Summer Olympics in Atlanta, and a bomb goes off. The Daytona 500, Fox calling the NASCAR the post-race show. Dale Earnhardt dies in the Great American Race, the face of the sport at the time, and not just being there, but being there with a broadcast ability to go on the air live and report on these things right away to an audience. So somebody said, boy, you get asked about these a lot. And then there's some fun moments that I wrote about in the book, but compiling them and putting them all together was a challenge over the years, because I wanted to make sure there were things that people would be interested, the events, and also the kinds of people. Some moments with Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali and Charles Barkley, some lighter moments. Bill Murray wrote the foreword, who I've gotten to over years, have known him from the ESPYs in the early years, an astute sports fan. So I hope people are entertained. It's a perfect, if you're a sports fan, but it does go beyond sports too. It's not all about me. It's more like our lives through sports, and they do mirror a lot of our lives, ups and downs, overcoming things, and adversity. And so, and wow, that was an old Sports Center expression. Instead of just saying, wow, what a catch, that deserves a wow. And so that's kind of where the title of the book came from. And I think we use the word more often than we realize. And hopefully everybody has a lot of wow moments in their life.
Is there a chapter on the dog show version? I mean, would you ever imagined hosting the dog show when you got into this business?
By the way, there's
Yeah.
I can see the cover or not, but anyway. No, the dog show was, Best in Show was really my first introduction, which the movie there is some reality connected to the actual Westminster Kennel Club Best in Show. But I never showed dogs or was a judge or anything like that, but always had them in my family. My family does a lot with animal rescue for dogs. And so when the opportunity came up, I was like, hey, I'd love to call the play-by-play. I'll have a little fun with it. They said, well, the Fox way, you can have fun, but as long as you don't cross that line. And so it's like having an ex-player as an analyst. I have a judge, someone who's judged or shown dogs themselves. And it's the longest running, competition, sporting event, if you want to call it that, with dogs in the U.S. other than the Kentucky Derby. And this year it happens right after the Super Bowl on Monday and Tuesday night at Madison Square Garden. So I always have fun with that. It's and the dogs are the show. That's the easy part. If we just put a camera on the dogs and let them go through and parade around, we don't really have to say that much. They're entertaining themselves and striking to watch on television. But yeah, that's something that Bill Murray teases me about in the book. But I didn't have time to put a lot of that in about Best in Show.
I got to tell you, that's a hell of a week. Super Bowl, dog show, Speed Weeks, Daytona.
You're right. We got the Clash, which is at Bowman Gray, the stadium in Carolina. Hopefully the weather's good. That's the week before the Super Bowl,
right.
And then the Daytona. Yeah, so there's a lot going on Fox and FS1. Who will be in the Super Bowl will be interesting to watch, and that'll give fans a lot to talk about. And there's some good playoff races going on right now.
Chris Myers, one of the best in the business, NFL, NASCAR, Major League Baseball, boxing, Westminster Kennel Club, dog show, all of the above. Thanks for the time, man. Great to see you.
And the Jags and the Jets.
Oh, that's
Don't
right.
Forget. All right, let's kick it off. Make some noise out there in Duval. All right, thanks for chatting. All right, enjoy the game. We'll talk to you again soon.